Jaw-dropping records rarely come from magic hands. They come from rules, probability, and practice working together. Today we'll unpack how a cube falls in seconds, how a distance got frozen at a quirky length, how memories scaled beyond belief, and why micro-advantages beat talent myths, because understanding the mechanics makes the feats even better. Start with speedcubing, where a human turns chaos into order in a heartbeat. Under World Cube Association rules, competitors get up to 15 seconds of inspection before starting, which meant they can pre-plan the first moves but not touch the puzzle. Go over and you risk a time penalty or even a disqualification. Therefore, clean inspection matters as much as fast fingers. The solve itself divides into layers of prediction. Top solvers use systems like CFOP, cross, first two layers, orientation of the last layer, and permutation of the last layer, which meant they memorize dozens to hundreds of tiny algorithms. A typical CFOP library includes around 70+ orientation cases and 21 permutation cases, so practice compresses choice into reflex. Look ahead does the real magic. While finishing one pair of pieces, a solver already tracks the next pair in peripheral vision, therefore their hands never pause between steps. Inspection often maps the cross and at least one pair in advance, which meant the opening seconds feel inevitable rather than frantic. So why do some scrambles look lucky? Scramble programs aim for random states, but randomness includes easy states where a few pieces already line up. Therefore, the first steps collapse quickly. If the last layer orientation or permutation happens to be solved, called a skip, the solver can jump straight to the finish, which meant a valid lucky solve rides probability, not cheating. Finger tricks shave the remaining edges. Shorter rotations, controlled regrips, and consistent turns reduce wasted motion. Therefore, the difference between a 6-second and a 5-second solve can be little more than cleaner ergonomics. Small gear tweaks, stable tension, smooth magnets help, but rules keep the puzzle recognizably the same for everyone. Next, let's run a marathon without leaving the chair and see why it measures what it does. People ran marathons of many lengths in the late 1800s because the event commemorated a legend rather than a tape-measured route. Everything changed in 1908 at the London Olympics. Organizers wanted a royal-friendly course from Windsor Castle to White City Stadium. They adjusted the finish so runners crossed in front of the royal box, which meant the course stretched to 26 miles plus 385 yards. That quirky add-on equals 42.195 kilometers, a number that looks too neat to be an accident. And it wasn't. The distance stuck in memory and in paperwork. Across the 1910s, some races used slightly different lengths. Therefore, results couldn't be compared cleanly. In 1921, global track officials standardized the marathon at exactly 42.195 kilometers, and we've kept it since. Standardization mattered because records need anchors. A faster course with generous downhill or tailwind can still yield a legal time. But the fixed distance lets us argue meaningfully about conditions, shoes, pacers, and weather, which meant the conversation shifted from "how far was that?" to "how was it run?" Now, turn to feats that look impossible until you see the method. At memory competitions, running since the early 1990s, athletes recall decks of cards, streams of digits, names, and faces under time pressure. Their secret isn't photographic memory, it's structure. The method of Loci converts items into vivid images and places them on a mental route, which is a path through familiar rooms or streets. Because location memory is resilient, the images stick. Therefore, recall becomes a walk where each stop cues the next item. Chunking pushes this further by packing several units into one image, like turning 3 digits into a single character, so capacity scales. Many athletes use a person-action-object system. An image might combine a famous person doing an action with an object, which meant 3 cards or digits fuse into one scene. String 20 such scenes along a memory palace and you hold 60 raw items with surprising reliability. Competitions verify performance with controlled randomness and strict scoring. Judges supply identical shuffled decks or computer-generated numbers, time the memorization, and then require precise recall on paper or screen. Therefore, errors carry penalties that keep results honest. The training looks like sport: repeated drills, measured speed, planned rest. So what truly beats records? Talent or tuning? Opinions love the romance of born genius, but data keeps pointing to thousands of hours of targeted practice plus micro-advantages that add up. A micro-advantage is a small, repeatable edge that compounds, which meant it matters more than a single lucky day. In speedcubing, shaving 0.02 of a second per algorithm matters across 100 algorithms. In marathons, drafting behind pacers, Perfect fueling and the right air density can combine to save minutes, therefore weather on race day becomes a hidden teammate. In memory sports, image libraries and palace layouts reduce search time inside the head, which meant the same brain hardware runs faster. Talent still plays a role, hand size, aerobic ceiling, or visual imagination shape ceilings, but the ceiling rises with training and good constraints. Records follow rules, standardized distances, fair scrambles, verified lists, consistent judging. Within those rules, the athlete who stacks small advantages most consistently tends to win. This doesn't kill the magic, it explains how to approach it. Skill grows where feedback is fast, mistakes are fixable, and the task can be decomposed. Therefore, anyone can improve far more than intuition predicts. The best keep notebooks, track experiments, and listen to the boring numbers. Finally, your turn to chase a record of perfect reasoning. 4 people need to cross a narrow bridge at night. They must share one torch, and at most, 2 can cross at the same time. Each pair walks at the speed of the slower person. Their individual crossing times are 1 minute, 2 minutes, 7 minutes, and 10 minutes, which meant sending fast helpers back with the torch may be necessary. Everyone starts on the same side. The goal is to get all across in the least total time. Your challenge is to find the minimum possible total and the exact crossing sequence that achieves it. Write the order clearly, who crosses, who returns, and why, because the logic hides in how often the fastest person escorts the torch. We'll reveal it and highlight the best takes in the next Mind Maze stream. Here's the distilled takeaway. Records look miraculous until you notice the scaffolding. Clear rules, smart methods, and compounding micro-advantages. Once you see the scaffolding, progress becomes a plan rather than a prayer. If this episode sharpened how you watch excellence and train your own, subscribe for more mind-stretching journeys each week.